have to say a few words to our host and organizer, Civil, that I met Jabe Derala shortly after my arrival in Skopje 2011, and I learned to appreciate the work of Civil during my 3 years in the country as one of the best organizations in the field of enhancing civil society, protecting human rights, and promoting a free society. I particularly appreciate the very clear position Civil took from the beginning regarding the Russian war of aggression in Ukraine, maybe the greatest danger right now for our part of the world. Green Civil is addressing the most imminent danger with a worldwide effect, climate change. Both challenges, as well as many others, are used by the intensive hybrid warfare from Russia and its allies. Authoritarianism is indeed an overarching danger for the so-called free world, now ever more than before. The definition of authoritarianism, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is the enforcement or advocacy of strict obedience to authority at the expense of personal freedom and lack of concern for the wishes or opinions of others. If this is the definition, I wonder why people around the world and recently in many European countries vote for persons and parties which are clearly in favor of authoritarianism. This is a warning sign which we should take very seriously. In these extremely difficult times with its multiple crises, many people are afraid and intimidated. They understand that huge changes are taking place, but do not know how to react to them. It is, of course, the choice of each individual group of people to respond to these challenges, but politicians, business elites, and intellectuals should play a leading role in these responses according to their responsibility. But often the opposite is happening. The political, economic, and so-called intellectualist elites are rather misusing their influence to even more intimidate the citizens. They are looking for personal or group interests, and they are looking also for authoritarian solutions. Hypocrisy is a widespread phenomenon in international politics. This has a huge impact on ordinary voters because they see the failure of the ruling elites and ask for alternatives. This must be discussed and tackled wherever possible. I do not know the solution, of course, but I know that freedom is crucial. Solutions can only be found by free persons in a free society with free media and a free discourse. And that is something which is always underlining also the former German president from East Germany. This would be in accordance with the thoughts of one of the greatest Germans, the philosopher Immanuel Kant, whose 300th birthday we celebrated this year. This is not the place to discuss Kant's philosophy. It's too complex, too huge. Many books were published about him this year, and you will find a book even in English and maybe in your language, whether it's Macedonian, Serbian, Albanian, and read more about it. He is not easy to read, not only because of his complex thinking and his complex language, but in view of the complex problems that mankind must resolve now, I think it's justified to refer to Kant. I'm referring here to one of his most known theses. Er zitiert first in German. Die Menschenwürde ist ein Status, der das Leben von Menschen über jeden Preis stellt. Alle Menschen haben ungeachtet ihres Rangs oder ihrer sozialen Klasse den gleichen inneren Wert oder die gleiche Würde. Human dignity is a status which puts the life of men above any price. All human beings, irrespective of their position or social class, possess the same inner value and the same dignity. This became the charter of the German fundamental law after the Second World War, the first charter of our constitution. Die Würde des Menschen ist unantastbar, sie zu schützen ist Verpflichtung aller staatlichen Gewalt. Human dignity is inviolable, protecting it is an obligation of all state power. I'm proud that the founding fathers and few mothers of the German fundamental law after the Second World War and the darkest period in German history with the Nazi barbarism, they took this Kant principle as the first chapter of the German constitution. And it also became the first chapter of the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights. Human dignity, I'm citing, human dignity is inviolable, it must be respected and protected. Looking at the definition of authoritarianism, which I cited above from the Oxford Dictionary, it is very clear that an authoritarian state can never be a solution. I think we must take the worries, fears, and anger of people these days very seriously. The problems we are facing are extremely complex, and therefore there can be no simple solution. But it is the task of politicians, intellectuals, business elites to explain to the ordinary people that solutions will be difficult and painful. For me, there is no question that those who are richer and stronger must shoulder the heavier part of the burden. The supporters of authoritarianism promise easy solutions, but in fact, these solutions will only lead to more problems and more injustice. The promise of easy solutions for complex problems is a lie, and we have to say this every day and everywhere. We have to say and to prove every day that the human dignity is inviolable. And in view of the reality, what is happening in Ukraine, what is happening in the Middle East, but what is happening in Sudan? Nobody talks about it. The terrible war, hunger, and in many other places of the world. I could mention Myanmar, I do not want to continue. But we have nevertheless to say and to underline every day that human dignity is inviolable. That is why easy solutions with migration. Now we send all the Syrian refugees home, what say some politicians in Germany, but also in other countries, and what is certainly one of the aims of Turkey by interfering into the situation in Syria, is that they want to get rid of these 3 million Syrian refugees. So we have always some interest. But the most important principle is the human dignity. And that is also what the Israeli philosopher Omri Böhm said in Vienna in May this year at the opening of the Vienna Spring Festival. He said, "Die Würde des Menschen ist unantastbar." The dignity of the human being is inviolable. He is representing, Omri Böhm, a radical universalism. And that was not welcome by the Jewish community in Vienna. They boycotted his speech, unfortunately. I think they did not understand what actually was the aim of what he said. No? And I think there must be also a limit to tolerance. We have to, of course, democracy is based on debate, on discussion, on discourse. But with some people, it's not possible. You cannot have a discourse with Putin, in my view. I spent 6 years in Russia, and I think I know the Russian system a little bit in depth. And he will not be able. He understands only the language of force. And let not have, again, a very weak compromise, which will lead only to further problems. It may stop the war for some time, but it will not be a solution. So no easy solutions to complex problems. And I hope that we can discuss this a little bit more, and I'm glad that I'm sitting here besides a woman from Ukraine, because they have been feeling this Russian dictatorship on their shoulders for more than almost 3 years now, and young people here in the region don't understand it. I spoke to a young, not so young anymore, but relatively young Serbian woman, and I said, "Isn't it terrible what's happening in Ukraine with all these bombings every day and many, many other crimes?" And she said, "Yes, but we suffered also when NATO bombed us." She simply didn't, she's a nice person, but she simply didn't understand what had happened and what is happening now. And that is because Serbia is under a full-fledged attack of Russian propaganda every day. And people are really have a disturbed mindset, in my view. Really. Someone said this to me, I talked to me. But in any case, so I will put this forward and say, if we do not take human rights and this human dignity as the basis of all our thinking and speaking every day, then things may go very wrong. Thank you.